Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's our Premier League season predictions for the upcoming 2021-22 season. We'll work our way up from the bottom of the league all the way up the table to the champions while picking our surprise team of the year as we go along. So if you're new to Garage Football, please subscribe to us, follow us on the socials, let us know your season predictions in the comments below. It'd be brilliant to read those throughout. So Lew and Ryan, thanks for joining us today, lads. This will be, we were chatting before, and this will be a really difficult, predictions for all of us. I think I've changed my teams around a heck of a lot of times. I'm sure you boys have as well. My surprise team is really difficult in comparison to the last few seasons, but we'll see how it goes anyway. So let's kick off, as we mentioned, with the bottom side. So, the relegation free. So 20th. I'm going to go with Norwich. Again, they've been the absolute definition of a yo-yo club the past 15, 20 years of Premier League football. They've been yo-yoing between the Premier League and the Championship constantly. They sold Emi Buendia to Aston Villa for a lot of money. And to be honest, it's hard to see where the goal's going to come from. Obviously, Timu Pukki has done well for them, but much like Norwich in the Premier, started off well, but faded away as the whole of Norwich did, really, when they were last in the Premier League. So I think they just fall short. But they've got Billy Gilmore on loan from Chelsea. Good to see him get some experience. And two players I didn't think would still be at Norwich, but they still are in Max Aarons and Todd Cantwell as well. So they'll get some wins, but I think they'll just fall short, unfortunately, for Norwich. So back down in the Championship for them again, not for the first time. So Ryan, who have you got for bottom, mate?
Yeah, I'm the same. Norwich, mate. I pretty much echo what you just said. I just don't think they've got the squad to shine this year. Their first run of games it's going to be really tough for them. I think they're playing Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. I think that's their first few games. That might knock their confidence, especially if they lose all three, and then just go downhill from there. I just personally think no real stats or anything to back it up. I just have this sense that they're going to have a dreadful season.
Christ, mate, so what you mean? Then Lou, finally with you, Lou, who's going to finish at bottom of the pole?
Yeah, I'd pick Norwich the same as you boys as well for all the same reasons. So I think what more can I add to what's already been said?
I just hope that they again stick with Daniel Farke, which they did last time, and then a fair play to their sustainable model that they have, but they're not going to. They might stay up this season, you never know, but I think they're not going to give themselves a better chance until they spend more money. So I think this is just going to carry on for the next few seasons with them. But bottom, we all think, so fair enough. So let's carry on with the next relegation spot. So I think it's going to be Watford, another promoted side. Sarr will be a key player as he has been for Watford in the Championship and last time in the Premier League. They signed Danny Rose on the free, good experienced player. They've got the experience of Troy Deeney and the cycling GK himself, Ben Foster, as well in goal. But Cisco's an experienced manager, and what it's like with Watford, and the amount of managerial turnarounds they have is absolutely ridiculous. So I think it wouldn't be surprised if he's the first manager to be sacked, to be honest with you, and they bring someone else random. But yeah, I think again they'll make a good go of it, but they just fall short. So Watford 19th for me. Lou, who have you got for second from bottom?
Yeah, Watford 19.
There's a theme developing here. Yeah, I think we know who the third one's going to be as well.
It's anyone in yellow. I think I'm going to put Arsenal in 17. I think. It's the same as you really feel. I'm basing it more on their history as well. Like, disappointing, like always in that sort of relegation zone, if not relegated. And I just think it's going to be hard for them to battle their way back up to something. You never know. But again, the story of the Premier League is money, isn't it? Really, how much these clubs spend, and you look at every year, and most clubs, if they sell their stars and they get lots of money and they buy other players up, it sort of filters upwards, doesn't it? Like you mentioned about Emi Buendia and stuff going up to a club like Villa, etc. For Norwich. So it's kind of I just think it's going to be one of those ones. It's just going to be too hard for them to compete against some of the bigger clubs that are constantly improving. So I went with Watford 19th. I'm pretty sure they'll probably go down again.
Yeah, fair play, mate. And how about you, Ryan?
Watford.
we haven't copied each other, I swear to God, honestly.
Share going
yeah, we haven't, not at all. We haven't shared this at all. Yeah. I assume the same reasons as us two, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. I just think it's going to be a bit of a parachute for them. I just see the teams above a lot stronger this year. They've got a lot of strikers, it seems, in their squad. I just feel they won't be confident in terms of a consistent lineup, who they're going to use. So I just think they're going to fall short this year and go down.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we can all guess who the 18th side's going to be, but let's go for it anyway. So for me, the third from bottom side is Brentford, another promoted side. I think they've got the best of the three. I think they've got by far the best chance. They've got Ivan Toney up front, who scored 31 goals in the Championship last season, including, he also got 2 in the playoffs, including the penalty in the final. So I fancy him to score double figures this season for Brentford, which might help them. They've got played some really good football under Thomas Frank. So I think for that reason they'll beat a few sides, especially at home in their newish stadium now. They were top scorers in the Championship last season, and they've signed Christopher Ishier from Celtic, centre back for a club record fee. So I think that will help their defence as well. So just think they'll fall short, but I think, as I say, of the 3 promoted sides, they've got the best chance. So, Ryan, who have you come for?
Same time, I'm joking.
Oh, really?
Are you ready for this?
Here we go.
This might shock you. I've got a gut feeling Wolves are going down this year.
Oh, my God.
Nice.
What was
Oh,
his
nice
you
big
say that one?
Yeah.
I like that.
Whoa,
That's a good
okay.
shout.
That's left field, mate.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. They'll probably win the league now. But
finish 6th now after that.
I think they're going to struggle without Nuno. Didn't think they looked as strong last year, and they might just lack a bit of confidence, and we just might see the turn of Wolves this year. Could be completely right. It's like I say, this year it's so hard to put the teams together. And I was thinking of putting Brentford there as well, but no, Wolves are the team for me. What about you, Lou?
So I went for Burnley this year.
Cool. That's two surprise ones.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like last year they had a disappointing season, didn't they? I think it was 17th. I think in the end they finished.
I think it was, yeah.
So somewhere around there, and I feel like it's kind of a disappointing one for them because I like I say, especially in recent years, early years, they were doing quite well and achieving respectable finishes and that, and it seems to sort of dropped off a little bit. So I just sort of worry for them. I don't know how they might find their way out, kind of to a bit of a stronger season. I'm hoping I'm wrong on that one, but it's just a bit of a gut feeling. There's not quite as drastic as Ryan's, but I think that's a fair shout as well. Ryan's a big shout, but I just think for Burnley, I think it's to be honest with you, like in that sort of 18th, 17th, 16th, they're all sort of interchangeable. I found it really hard this year, so for this pick. So yeah, I'm going to go with Burnley for that position.
Fair enough.
Good man. For 17th now, funny enough, I went for Burnley. I think they'll just stay up. I think they've got quite a weak squad at the moment. Pretty much what you were saying there, Lou. No big signings that I'm aware of currently. We've got new owners, but no inspiring signings. But I do back Sean Dyche to keep them up. And I think it could even go down to the last day. But I think 17th for Burnley. What do you think, Lewis?
17th, I went for Palace.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I feel like they're one of the, they've got a sort of star player in Zaha as well, who sort of tended to shine and stuff, in some of the bigger games for them. But outside of players like that, I'm not sure what they might have to offer if, in terms of some of the other clubs in that area. So, I think that they might finish 17th this year. I don't think they'll have the strongest of seasons.
And what about you, Bill?
Spot with I agree with Lou. Crystal Palace for 17th. New manager Patrick Vieira, obviously experienced in this division with Arsenal and Man City, of course. But the mixed record at Nice did decently, but then fell away towards the end. Hasn't really got a certain style of player, which might cost them unless he chooses one early on. I've had a big change at Palace, obviously with Roy Hodgson leaving, and it's something different for Palace because they've traditionally gone for British managers. Think of Tony Pulis, Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew, Roy Hodgson himself. And when they tried something different in Frank de Boer, that was a huge failure, wasn't it? So I'm not saying it will be like that for Vieira, but no, it's a test for Vieira. But I think they'll just stay up. Getting Conor Gallagher on loan from Chelsea. I think he's a good loan signing. He did well at West Brom, was one of their better players in their relegation last season. I think Vicente Guaita is one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the division, so he'll be a key player for them. They've got Sahara, as you said, Lou. But I think Eze being out with an Achilles injury until at least the new year will be a big miss for him. So, yeah, and they've got a lot of players that are left, like Gary Cahill, Patrick Van Helmholt as well. So, yeah, it'll be a transition season with Palace, I think, but I think they'll just about stay up.
Cool. So if we jump over to 16th then. So for me, 16th this year, I've gone for Brighton. Again, it could be one of those ones that works out really well for them. Obviously, they've got a big fee for Ben White as well, but obviously one of the more experienced centre backs for them as well. So when you're sort of having a transition team, especially in transition phase around your defence, when you lose a big name and stuff, sometimes it works out. Like Liverpool when they sold off a couple of their players, when then they brought in like Andy Carroll and all those kind of guys. They had big transfer fees coming in, but they sort of didn't spend it too wisely around that. So I'm sort of wondering if Brighton, with some of that money, it might kind of backfire or not. So I think they'll be in a bit of a transition phase, but it's I think sort of 16th is probably my average pick for them. Bill, what's your thoughts for 16th?
Southampton. I think they had an incredibly poor end to last season. I think they had the fewest points in 2021. So I think they were really glad that the season finished. They were looking for good for Europe, and then they had a bad run of injuries, and just meets over the line really. So I think obviously they sold Danny Ings to Aston Villa, which would be a big miss. They've recently signed Adam Armstrong, which should be a good signing from Blackburn. He scored 28 goals in the Championship last season, so that will help. They've also still got good players in James Ward-Prowse, and I think Stuart Armstrong's underrated, and I think they've signed Phil Walcott permanently as well. So yeah, I think they'll just have enough. It'll be a bigger test for Hasenhüttl this season, but I think they'll just have enough.
Cool. Finally, Ryan.
Yeah, so for 16th, I've gone for Crystal Palace. I think it'll be a big year for Vieira to see how he does, managing a big team. Well, managing for the first time in a big league, shall we say. It's going to be a make or break. He might get one of the first managers to get the sack, and we might do really well. But I think 16th for Crystal Palace. They've made some good signings as well. One being Michael Elise as well, a talented, good young signing from Reading. I don't see them struggling to stay up. Don't see them doing anything spectacular, but I think 16th would be, a relatively good year for Crystal Palace this year.
Yeah, fair dues, mate. So 15th now. So for 15th, I'm going to go with Burnley. Similar to what you said, Ryan, no real signings of note at the moment, but obviously with all these teams, there's still a number of weeks left in the transfer window. But despite that, they're a solid outfit. Their first 11 is a decent, 11. Particularly, you've got Nick Pope and two centre backs in Tarkowski and me. That triangle is like three of the best in the bottom half, in my opinion. And they've got Chris Wood. He played in the Olympics, but he's in the last 4 seasons, he's got double figures in the Premier League. So I think he'll get double figures again. You've got to play likes of McNeil and Goodmanson, Ashley Barnes. So I think they'll, as long as Sean Dyche rather stays as their manager, I think they'll be absolutely fine. So those two centre backs I mentioned, they missed the start of the season. That's why they struggled for a bit, but they're back to start the season fit. So I think they'll another comfortable season for Burnley. So let's go with you, Lou, for 15th.
I've put Southampton 15th. I think again, pretty much you covered everything that could be covered there, Bill. I mean, I think they'll be resilient enough to stay up. I think especially like after a poor season last season, if they wouldn't have been relegated with like that level of points and stuff like that, and they're still around, I think they've got enough quality in there to stay up. But I wouldn't necessarily say I could see them pushing some of the clubs above them for spaces. So I think they'll kind of just be that bang average, somewhere in the middle kind of thing,
Yeah, great. Yeah. Agreed.
So I think that's where they'll end up.
Yeah, nice one. And are you, Ryan, for 15th?
So for this team, it's very hard for me to pick a surprise team for the season, but I would probably say this team for this reason. I've gone for Brentford. I think everyone's writing them off to go down. I think 15th is where they'll be. They might even push higher. They might shock us. I reckon they could. I think good squad. I believe they were the highest scorers in the Championship. I think it was like 79 goals, around that anyway. They could shock me and make top 10. That's why I think they could be that team that everyone writes off as, going to be relegated. But I just have a good feeling this could work in their favour.
I get a nosebleed if they finish 15th, mate. Fucking hell. Well, that is a shot. That is a surprise, yeah.
Cool. So that brings us on to 14th. So my team is Southampton. Similar points what you both said. I see them doing a little bit better, but I don't see them doing anything spectacular this season. They do get a lot of injuries as a club, which could be one of their downfalls, I think. But I see them 14th. I mean, what about you, Bill? Who are you going for 14th?
Newcastle. I think they're going to sign Joe Willock fairly soon, which would be fantastic because he was absolutely brilliant for them on loan last season from Arsenal. I think he was the youngest player in Premier League history to score in 7 consecutive games. So he was vital for them. They were struggling. Steve Bruce was under fire for training ground comments with Matt Ritchie, for example. But I think they're not going to be amazing. Newcastle, they'll do enough. Typical season under Steve Bruce, typical season under the ownership of Mike Ashley. 14th. They've got Callum Wilson, Alain Saint-Maximin. So they'll be fine this season in my opinion.
No, great points there. What about you, Lewis?
So 14th is my surprise team, which was also Brentford, ironically.
I like how you was laughing when I was
I know. I was like, oh no.
14th, Luke.
Yeah. So I genuinely think when you've got when you've got a club that goes up and they've got a point to prove, and I think their previous 2 seasons prior to their promotion, I think they had consecutive 3rd place finishes in the Championship. So we know they've got staying power, and we know that they can compete on the way up. So I do think they've got a lot more depth and sort of character in that team than I think people would give them credit for. I think obviously the first game will be a big test for them as well, especially against Arsenal, and just to see what the atmosphere will be like and all that. Like to be the first experience for that kind of thing. But I genuinely think they've got way more credit. A little bit like the Leeds effect, like they've sort of got nothing to lose and everything to prove, and they can only go out there and give it everything every game for their fans who've obviously wanted to see them up there for a long time. So that's why I went with Brentford as my surprise team.
Yeah, just before we move on, sorry mate, that's a good point, because obviously you look at some of the other teams that have got promoted recently. You look at Wolves, Leeds, as you mentioned, Sheffield United. So you can't be ruled out that one of these sides could finish where they will, or where you think. So it's not. Yeah.
Just for something a bit different in it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
To be fair, I did also think of West Ham as a surprise team as well, like way further up the table, because I think they were one of the biggest surprises of last year, weren't they? Really, like how well you did. So it was a toss-up between the two, and me and Ryan gambled on the same coin. So.
I did originally put them as relegated. I've changed it so many times.
I
put Wolves as champions last week.
Oh God! So that leads us nicely into 13th. So I've gone for Newcastle this year, 13th. Again, I do actually think Joe Willock will be a big impact for them. I think I watched him towards the tail end of last season when he came on. I think it was the Liverpool game. He was really impressive as well, just shy of the last few games, I think it was. So if that comes off and that goes through, I think that will be one of the first sort of years where they've sort of invested in more known players. So I think Newcastle are definitely a Premier League team, and they've got such great history. I think I can't see them in any danger of going down or anything. So I think they'll get a nice, strong, solid mid-table position this year. Again, it could be interchangeable, with those sort of 2 or 3 teams above, but I reckon with a decent signing or a decent couple more, 13th is a nice, respectable place for them. So Ryan, what's your prediction for 13th?
I actually went for Newcastle as well, mate. Last year they finished 12th, Newcastle, so it'd be one down. I think it's not really great behind the scenes. I think obviously, with everything that's going on with their chairman, I think it's just not good things going. There's not a good atmosphere. They have a fairly weak squad, but they've signed Willock, so I think there's going to be a little bit of fresh enthusiasm I do think they're too much of a big club at the moment to be fighting relegation or anything like that. I think Steve Bruce has got it covered from that perspective. But yeah, 13th for me.
Nice. And Bill?
Well, 13th, I've gone for my surprise team, which is Brighton.
Wow.
Now, I think Brighton will surprise a few people in terms of not being in a relegation scrap this season. If they scored the amount of goals that they should have done last year, I think they would have finished 6th last season. So I'm not saying they'll obviously finish as high as that, but I mean, the football they play under Graham Potter is actually fantastic. They dominate possession a lot of the times, and they play some really good stuff. Got some good players. It's just they're lacking that centre forward, but I think they'll score more goals and turn those a couple. They only need to turn maybe 2 or 3 draws into wins, and they'll shoot up the table. So I think they'll finish 13th and be fairly comfortable. So they've signed Enoch Mwepu from Red Bull Salzburg for 18 mil, which is a good signing on paper. I think he'll form a good partnership with Basuma. That'll be one of the best midfield partnerships in the bottom half, I'd say. So, and it's vital to keep hold of Basuma as well. But yeah, Graham Potter's done a good job. So I think, Brian might surprise a few people and finish 13th. So let's move on to 12th. So I've gone for Wolves. Now, it's great. I think we can all say as football fans that we're absolutely delighted to see Raul Jimenez back playing again after his horrific, head injury against Arsenal. And I think, bit of a mixed season under Nuno, who's obviously moved on, but they've got Bruno Lage, who managed Benfica previously. So obviously they've got this big Portuguese contingent at Wolves. So I think it'd be a a steady season in mid-table. Definitely get relegated, like Ryan says. But it'd be a steady season for Wolves. They've still got some good players, Conor Cody at the back, etc., and Ruben Neves in midfield. Top player, he hasn't been snapped up surprisingly, albeit there's still time in the window. So Wolves for 12th for me. So Ryan, who have you gone for, buddy?
For 12th, I've gone for Brighton. Similar positive reasons that you said, Bill. I think they're a very well run club. Obviously, they've gained £50 million from Ben White. So they've still got time to make some signings. They do need to spend the money. Potter's a great manager. I think they can do well. I don't think they're going to surprise us and be top 10. I don't think they're strong enough for that, but I think 12th is where they are.
Yeah, good points, mate. And Lou?
12th this year, I went for Leeds. For again, I think obviously that sort of first season kind of, like power surge and that kind of sort of slowly like tails off a little bit. I just think with them, again, they'll perform really well. They're exciting to watch. To be honest with you, they could even finish way higher, especially with crowds back. Do you know what I mean? Because they're one of that really proud footballing cities as well, and they might really benefit from having crowds. We know, I think a lot of the commentary, you boys probably noticed as well last year, was saying there was a lot of clubs that sort of fell short last year because they just really missed fans. That just something for them might not have been there without their supporters there from kind of thing. So it would be interesting to see what happens with Leeds with a full stadium down in Ellen Road. We know what the Leeds supporters are like. They're a lively bunch. So, I just think they'll finish a sort of solid, respectable, sort of between that 12th and 10th range. But I put them in at 12 this year. I think there's some stronger teams above them. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next for Leeds because obviously with the Bielsa effect and other teams adapting to it as well now. Let's just be interesting to see what happens with them. So that's why I went with Leeds.
No, good points there, Lou. That takes us to 11th. I've actually said Leeds United as well. I think they could easily finish anywhere within the ballpark of 10th to 12th. They did great last year. They actually scored more goals than Chelsea, I believe. They've kept majority of the squad. They've got Jack Harrison on a permanent deal. Their high intensity style of play should work well for them, I reckon. I see them doing well and building as time goes on. But I don't see them finishing 9th again like they did last season. I think the other teams will be a little bit stronger. But I think we can all agree it's great to see Leeds United back in the Premier League like they were last year, and this is where they belong. Let's hope they build and take it from there. Yep. Lewis, where do you see? Who's 11th for you this season?
I've gone for Everton in 11th this year.
Okay.
Do you know, Everton, it could be a gamble because obviously we don't know what it's going to be like with Rafa Benitez in there. Obviously, he's a proven Premier League manager. going across, to the blue side of Merseyside will be interesting. Um, I wonder what's going to happen, because they sort of had, like, especially when they got Ancelotti in and they started bringing James Rodriguez and all these kind of people in, it started to seem really positive. And I think even like at one point they were like top of the league, weren't they, at the start of last season? They had a really strong start to the season. And but there was rumours of them sort of willing to let Rodriguez go and stuff. And I'm just sort of thinking, as a club, where do they go if they, attracted a star manager, attracted some star players, and seems to start building, then all of a sudden, well, not to disrespect Benitez, I say he's not a star manager, but just, it's sort of whatever they start to build, start to kind of go away a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for them and how they sort of cope and build, and see what Rafa brings to the table. But yeah, again, that sort of 10th to 12th is kind of interchangeable, but I just felt that 11th is a good position for them.
Good point. So what about you, Bill? Who's 11th for you this year?
Yeah, same as Lew. I think Everton for 11th. I think they dropped from last season. Obviously Ancelotti was building something pretty good there, and obviously he's gone back to Real Madrid. And the home form was woeful at Goodison Park. Last season, you would think that the crowds back at Goodison will help them, but with Rafa Benitez as manager, I don't think that will help. I think he could, if he gets off to a bad start, he could be handed out of town before we know it. So obviously he's a very capable manager, as we know in the Premier League. We've seen before with obviously Liverpool, Newcastle, and overseas as well. But but he obviously plays a different style of football to Ancelotti. So, but yeah, still got some good players. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Alan midfield Decore. Jordan Pickford was excellent for England in the Euros. So still got some good players. So but I think it could be a struggle for Benitez if he doesn't get some results early on.
So that leads us on to 10th. So 10th, I have gone for Wolves this year. Again, I think they've got enough quality in that squad, particularly obviously that strong sort of Portuguese contingent that you mentioned earlier, Bill. To be honest with you, I don't really know anything about their new manager at all. So I've got no idea about his credentials or what he may or may not bring. I think it will be a hard thing to replace Nuno, but I think they've got more than enough quality in there to achieve a 10th place finish. So I think that's why they'll end up. And obviously, Bill, as you mentioned about Jimenez coming back as well, I think that'll be a big addition. So I think there'll be a nice strong shout at 10th. Bill, what's your thoughts on that position?
Aston Villa. So obviously they've sold Jack Grealish, but for 100 million, which obviously is a lot of money, and I know it's written in his contract, but you've got to accept that kind of fee for someone like Grealish. But they've signed some decent players. Danny Ings from Southampton, very good forward. Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen, who scored 9 goals in the Bundesliga last season, so I think he'll fit in. And as we mentioned earlier, Emi Buendia has joined from Norwich for 38 million quid. So I think they've got some good players. Villa, Ollie Watkins, be his second season, and Mings did well for England at the Euros. And Martinez, outstanding goalkeeper. So got good players throughout. Dean Smith's a good manager. So I'm expecting another solid season for Villa.
Nice. Ryan?
Yeah, so for 10th, I'm going for West Ham. So I still think that'll be a good season for them. They do look good with Moyes, but they haven't got Lingard this season. And also, I think they're going to find it a lot harder now they're going to be playing Europa League games. I think that's going to tire them out a little bit. But if they can get top 10, I still think that's a good season for them. Even if they finish 12th, I still think they've got to still back Moyes, in my opinion. But top 10 for West Ham, so I think they'll just make 10th. Plus, let's not forget we're playing to fans now, which I think made a difference last year. I'm joking, Bill. No, I think they're a good side. They're going in the right direction. But I think with Europa League, I think they're just going to struggle a little bit. So 10th for me. Right,
let's move on to 9th. So I'm going to go with my team for 9th, West Ham. Similar points to what you made, Ryan. I think Europa League will will harm us a little bit. Obviously, in the group stage, so that's 6 lots of Thursday and Sunday games. We've got a thin squad as it is anyway. We've only signed Areola on loan, goalkeeper who was on loan at Fulham last season, but he did very well. So be interested to see whether it's him or Lucas Fabianski gets the number 1 shirt this season. But I think there's still time to bring players in. It's pretty typical that GSB won't be able to spend the money this season. Typical them. But anyway, there's still time left. We need to cry out for some centre forwards. We've only got Mikel Antonio, as I recognise the striker. And with his hamstring problems, he's not going to last a full season. So we need to cover in that area. But we've got our first 11 we'll give a game for anyone, as proven last season. So I think we'll drop down a couple of places. As Europa League participants over the seasons, they generally drop 2 or 3 places in the league. So ninth will still be a good season for us. So Lou, who have you gone for the 9th?
I've gone for my team Arsenal at 9th this year.
Ooh.
Hello.
That's a best
Ryan's face.
Mate, that is a best case scenario. My gut is about 15th. Honestly, seriously, that's my gut. 9th will be an absolute blessing. We are just in the crap. I just think everything about Arsenal Football Club is a mess from top to bottom. So
it's going to be judging by the Amazon documentary, it's going to be nothing then for Arsenal this season. Then
it's going to be a great. It's going to be the new AFTV and chill, isn't it? It's going to be Arsenal, Amazon, and chill.
Can't wait for that.
I just think we haven't got our strikers firing, so we're not scoring any goals. We're relying on our young talent to drag us out of the mud in big games, which is obviously an awful lot of pressure to put on them. Giving Smith Rowe a number 10 shirt and a new contract, obviously, like he's obviously deserved it, and he was one of our standout players. I just hope that doesn't hinder his progress a little bit, because obviously when you get that sort of responsibility, the fans get on you if it doesn't go your way. Case in point being Mesut Ozil. Not sure what's happened with Aubameyang, to be honest with you. Lacazette, I mean, maybe it might be time to sell one of them and try and bring someone else in. Maybe some of the strikers moving around throughout Europe might free up some more opportunity for us. I think the whole rumor of the Lautaro Martinez thing from Inter will be binned now that Lukaku's gone. I don't think they're going to want to lose another thing. So I don't see where our goals are going to come from. I don't think we've plugged all the midfield problems, especially with Partey getting injured all the time, even in pre-season now. So I think our midfield is a write-off for this year. I just don't see any positives, to be honest. I don't see
Well, I'm not being funny, mate. I mean, finishing 8th last year wasn't good, but finishing 9th, if you think that we're still going backwards, then.
Yeah. I'd love to. I want to be proven wrong against all odds. Do you know what I mean? I really want to be proven wrong. But yeah, like even in pre-season now, it's like all the YouTube videos, everyone's stressing out and freaking out pre-season. We haven't even started an actual game. It's like so. I would love to be optimistic, but I'm struggling a little bit. So, for that reason, I'm going Arsenal in 9th this year.
Fair enough, mate. Ryan, how about you, mate?
I've gone for Aston Villa. They've been looking better lately. Obviously, similar points to what you said, Bill, earlier. Obviously, they've got rid of Grealish now to Man City. But on the back of that, they've managed to sign 5 big signings, which I think, may be good for them this year. I still think they can definitely go in the right direction, and I do see them as a good top 10 team this year. So exciting times for Villa fans, I'm sure. Great time to support your club. So that brings us on to 8th place. So I'll start this one. I actually think Everton for 8th. It's going to be it could be a really tough season for Benitez. It could easily go the other way. He could lose the dressing room. He could lose the fans. I think the fans are going to be a bit 50. I think they've been quite respectful with him so far, but it could easily go the other way. But I've just got a good feeling that he'll be in the top 10 and he'll make 8th. He'll certainly sort out their defence, that's for sure, and just see if he can take them to the next level. So 8th for me. Bill, who's your 8th team this year?
Leeds, similar points to what you guys have said. They've brought in Junior Firpo to replace Alioski, who's moved to Saudi Arabia, I think. But I'm expecting more the same from Marcelo Bielsa's side, and you boys mentioned about Jack Harrison signing permanently. I think that's great. He did well for them. I expect Bamford to keep scoring like he did last season, and I think with the energy of the crowd from Ellen Road, it'd be great to see them back, and I think they'll drive the team on even further heights this season. So Leeds for 8 for me.
Very good point. So what do you think, Lewis?
I've gone for Spurs in 8th this year. I think even if they lose Harry Kane, they've still got players that can score goals. Like Son can still bang in the goals. So obviously the Harry Kane thing at the time of recording this is still a bit up in the air. He seems like maybe he's more likely to stay now. So obviously we can't really comment on what he's going to be doing. But with or without him, I think they've still got players in the squad that can score goals. Brought in a great manager in Nuno. Let's see what he brings to the team. In terms of intensity and a style of play. Obviously, it got lost under Mourinho, didn't it? It sort of fell apart, and obviously, poor Ryan Mason getting dragged in at the end. I think there was a great stat. I think it might have been
the cup final.
The cup final, with Guardiola, like 800 trophies, 1,000 wins, and you got Ryan Mason 2 games.
2 games,
yeah. I was like, oh, that's cruel. Yeah. But I think Spurs will finish 8th. I don't think they're particularly much better than Arsenal, but they've got a player that can score goals, and that's the difference in these competitions. So, and with a big brand new stadium full of fans this year, I think that will drive them on as well. So, I've gone for Spurs in 8th. If we jump up to 7th, though, I have gone for Villa this year. Again, to be honest with you, I think we've covered most of the sentiments. They seem to have really reinvested that 100 million for Jack Grealish wisely so far. They've got some good buys. I'm excited to see the guy from Leverkusen as well. Is it Bailey?
Bailey,
Bailey, Leon Bailey. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what he does as well. It's quite nice, really. Like the way that the Grealish moved, it seems like it was pretty acrimonious all round as well. So I don't think it will particularly leave a bad feeling in the fans' mouths. Like kind of like derail the season a bit. When you sort of lose a star player. But I think all the fans and that will be positive for them as well. So I think they've got more than enough talent and some good new signings there. Good, to stay up there in 7th and again another Midlands club with passionate fan base. So I think they'll be buzzing to get back in there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Ryan, what do you think for 7th?
I think Spurs 7th this year. I think it'd be a bit of a dip year for them. I don't think they'll do worse than that. But obviously the uncertainty with Kane, obviously it looks like he might be staying now. By the time this goes out, it could be clear what he's doing. But even if he is staying, what's his work ethic going to be like? I still think he'll give it 100%. But they've got a great manager, Nuno. But will it take him a year or so to sort of find his groove with the players? Plus, they're obviously playing in Europe this year, the Conference League. So you've got to, bear everything in mind, really. So I think Spurs for 7th.
Cool, nice. And Bill, what would you think on 7th?
Yeah, same as Ryan, 7th for me. Obviously the uncertainty about Harry Kane, but even him and Son were brilliant for Spurs last season. They still finished poorly, but because their defence was crap in comparison to how it was previously. They've signed Christian Romero from Atalanta for nearly 50 million quid. So they needed another centre back. So we'll see whether he'll make a difference. I think with Nuno, I don't know why they messed about possibly getting, Gattuso in and other rubbish managers. I mean, Nuno's an established, manager, not only, overseas, but in this division. The only thing about Nuno is, the style of play at times at Wolves was a bit pragmatic and they're a bit rubbish to watch at times, Wolves. So, and Daniel Levy's gone back, he's asked for like a throwback to sort of Pochettino, maybe Harry Redknapp, where it's a bit more flamboyant in style of football. So can he do that? Well, remains to be seen. So yeah, I think 7th for Tottenham for me. I'm not expecting amazing things for them. So a bit of a transition season for them. So let's move on to 6th. I'm going to go with Arsenal. So I think a lack of European football could help Arsenal this season. They've signed Ben White for 50 million. Whether it'll be the answer to, their big questions at the back, we'll have to see. I think he's certainly got potential without a doubt. I expect the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette to perform better this season than last season, and Thomas Partey, assuming he gets over his injury problems, I think he's got a lot to offer for Arsenal. So, but yeah, I don't think I think they're still way off Champions League place at the moment. But I think, yeah, sick for Arsenal for me. Ryan, who have you gone for, mate?
Similar points to you, but I've gone for Arsenal. Arsenal are my team, just like Lewis's, but I'm going to be a bit more positive. But I know there's going to be a lot of Arsenal fans out there that would still are quite deluded and would act like sixth is a disaster. If we can get sixth this season and potentially try and win an FA Cup or something, that'd be a very good season, in my opinion. Sixth is pretty much the best that we can achieve for at the moment. But I do agree. I echo what you say, Bill. I think not playing European football is going to give us a little bit of hope, I suppose, to sort of build momentum in the Premier League. I think Saka could be a little bit of a national treasure on the back of England. I think he could do well. Ben White could be a good sign-in. We've not made any sort of massive signings, though. I mean, Martinez, like you said, Lew, was rumoured, but I don't think that's happening. I think Arteta's going to be under pressure this season. Obviously, we've got the documentary All or Nothing, so it literally will be all or nothing for him this year. We'll see what happens. No, I do think no European football is going to give us the edge over Spurs. But if we can get top six and maybe win an FA Cup, I'd class it as a good season. But a little bit of optimism, I think sixth for Arsenal.
Yeah, good points there, Ryan. So, Lou, who have you gone for sixth?
A bit of I guess, an optimistic one, but I've gone for West Ham in sixth this year.
Cool, I'll settle for that, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like with West Ham, I know obviously you being a massive West Ham fan, Bill, obviously we get a nice little bit of insight from all the games you go to and obviously the chats and things like that. So I know obviously finances and, squad depth and stuff has been an issue, and it was obviously the back end of last year. But I think that the amount of goals that you were able to score and things like that was really positive. If you were able to defend better and not throw away those big leads, especially the Arsenal game was a great example when you were 3-0 up.
Yeah, not half, mate.
I think if you can sort those things out, then I think with the goals you were scoring, I think obviously if Lingard doesn't come back to West Ham, I think that will be a big miss, because obviously I think he gave the rest of the team a bit of a lift, didn't he? So I think if you can get him back or someone like that for that role, who brings goals and a bit of adventurous play and maybe some good defending, or maybe a couple of defense. I don't know what you think, Bill. If there's a couple of defensive positions you need to fill, but just once you get that and you still score the same amount of goals, I think there's no reason why West Ham couldn't be up this year for more European football.
Cool. So that brings us up to fifth place. I'm going to go with Leicester City. FA Cup winners last year, on a smaller scale, won the Community Shield already. Looking good under Rodgers. I think they're a great team. They're an example of how a club should be run with the owners, etc. Europa League games and the dynamics of the teams above that we'll come to in a sec, I think is unfortunately going to keep them off the top four. I'm sure that will disappoint Leicester fans because that's what they want to go for. But I think they'll have a good season and they'll challenge for cups again. But I think fifth is pretty much where we are this season. I mean, what about you, Lewis? Who's your team that's going to finish fifth this year?
I went for Leicester as well.
Okay.
Pretty much similar sentiments. I think they've been performing really well consistently over the last few seasons. Again, if they can keep hold of big players like James Maddison and things like that, I don't think he'll leave Leicester, but I think, if they can keep hold of their really good players and just keep building, they're going to just keep going. They've got so much spirit. I know it's only a Community Shield win, but again, beating the champions in their sort of first big game of the season, I think that's a big, big result. So, I think that they'll be really, really good this year. I think they'll be a really good shout, great relationship with the fans and the owners and the community. And, I think that there'll be another team that's really driven on by a fan presence. So, I'm fairly confident there'll be an easy shout in for fifth this year.
No, great points there, mate. I mean, what about you, Bill?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys have said. So, Leicester for fifth. Spot on with what you both have said. I think just to add to that, I think signing Patson Daka will be a good signing for him. He scored for fun at Red Bull Salzburg, so that's a good option alongside Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho, who had the season of his life. And I think getting Ryan Bertrand on the free for Southampton won't be a bad signing. They need cover at left back, so that's not a bad option. So I think just the last couple of seasons, they'll just fall short of the Champions League spots, but fifth will still be an excellent season for them.
Nice. Well, we're at the top four, boys. The exciting teams. So let's see. Fourth, I have Man United this year. Maybe slightly optimistic. I think Sancho's a really good signing, a positive signing for them for a bit more dynamism. I think, like, if you think of the pace that they've got with Rashford and Greenwood, as well as Sancho now, I think that's quite a frightening attacking lineup for any team. So I think that there's another step in the right direction. I still think with the signings that Chelsea and Man City have made, or Chelsea looking like they're making at the time of this video, I think there's going to be a big gap there. I think with Liverpool and Man United, it'll be closer. I feel like Liverpool are kind of, a bit of an older squad now. So I think Man United still have got a lot of youth and pace in their team. So I think United will finish fourth this year. Bill, what's your thoughts, my friend?
Liverpool. Now, obviously the injuries to, likes of Virgil van Dijk and basically their whole defence obviously really cost them. And I think the lack of crowds at Anfield in particular harmed them. But just in comparison to the other sides around them, I think they've strengthened their squads, and Liverpool haven't quite done that. So whereas, seasons gone by, it was Man City and Liverpool, and there was a gap between the rest. I think now, City are the team to beat, and then Liverpool come back into the pack somewhat. So, but they've signed Ibrahim Konate from RB Leipzig, centre back. So I think in time will be a good player. And they might miss Wijnaldum actually, because I think he's very underrated. Wijnaldum, he's gone to PSG. I think I don't think there'd be much between Liverpool and the teams in second and third personally. So, obviously you've got title credentials, and also Jurgen Klopp's excellent manager. But I just think maybe they've plateaued as a side. They need to refresh. I think be interested to see if Mane and Firmino, they're pretty average seasons last season. So whether they'll be back to their best this season. If they are, then they could finish second or even go on and win the league. So I think fourth for Liverpool for me.
Nice, really good points there, Bill. Ryan, what's your thoughts for fourth place?
Yeah, like I said throughout the season, I mean, the top 20 in general, I've been changing my opinion with all the clubs really, but specifically with the top four, the order of the top four, I've been finding it hard. But I've actually gone with Liverpool as well. Very similar points to what Bill have said. They can be quite injury prone. I think if they don't have the injuries and they're all fit and they're all playing well, they can still, they can give Man City a run for the money and go for the title. But I just don't see that happening. They haven't made any big signings that I'm aware of. And I feel the teams above are going to be a bit stronger this season. So for fourth, Liverpool.
Yeah, fair dues, mate. So let's move on to third. So I think it's going to be Chelsea. It's Thomas Tuchel's, first 4 seasons in charge, obviously off the back of the Champions League win against Man City earlier this year. And he made a real difference to the defence. They're just missing the goal scorer up front. Looks like they're going to sign or re-sign Romelu Lukaku, and if they do, then that'll be a statement signing. I think he's a different player to when he was last in the Premier League at Man United, where I think he was a bit too bulky personally, but I think he looks, to be a top player, and he's proved that with Inter Milan, obviously winning the league with them and Belgium, the national side. So, I think Chelsea were missing that centre forward from last season. Obviously, Werner with his goal scoring problems. Whether he'll improve this season remains to be seen. But I think Chelsea will be in the title hunt, and I think they'll just fall short, but they'll finish third for me. So, Lou, who have you gone for?
I went with Liverpool. Again, I thought it was a toss up between Man United and Liverpool in that sort of third and fourth place. To be honest with you, I kind of went with Liverpool primarily based off of the fans, really, if I'm honest, like having that sort of Anfield atmosphere again to drive them on. With Liverpool, the sort of constructive feedback is that I just feel like where they achieved everything that you could possibly achieve over a couple of years with that same squad, I just think that it needs that fresh impetus, to kind of put them back up to sort of title contenders again. I just think they're sort of aging a little bit and not replacing everyone in the way that they need to. So I think that's some stuff that if they address that, they could be back up there. But I think I just think that the fans will be the the big driver between them getting a third place finish. because we know they can, their style of play, you know, the aggressive style of play, they can generate goals and lots of them, especially against the lower league teams and things like that. So, lower position teams. So yeah, it was a bit of a toss up, but I think the Anfield crowd will drag them over the line in some difficult moments.
Yeah, I think, as Ryan said, I think we all struggle with these combinations for the top four. So, Ryan, who have you gone for the third, mate?
I went for Man United. Again, anyone in the top four can compete to win the title this season. They've all got an opportunity. They've all got a shout. But I think Man United third. I think they're getting stronger. I think definitely Solskjaer's finding his feet as a manager now. And getting, it's definitely, I think, won the fans over in terms of trust that he's the right man for the job. And obviously the addition of Sancho, etc. So I think Man United third.
It's not that long ago, Ryan, is it? Or both of you actually. We did that video. Should they give Solskjaer more time?
Yeah,
remember that? It wasn't that long ago, was it?
And here we go. So we've got to give Arteta some time, Lewis. You know.
Yeah. Trust. I'm all for giving him time. I just.
It's all like
my hope. I'm an optimist, Ryan, and it's slowly been beaten out of me.
It's all about this season, I'm sure. But that takes us to second. I'm going to go with Chelsea. I think very strong side. Tuchel was a great manager. Obviously won the Champions League last year as well. Lukaku, the signing is looking likely, isn't it? So that would be a fantastic addition to the squad. Yeah, Chelsea for me. I think it's just so hard, isn't it? The top four this year, just to really, it could be anywhere, you know. But what about you, Lewis? Who's runners up this year for you?
Yeah, I've gone Chelsea as well this year in the second place. I think if you look at their squad, they've got a really, really promising, quite young squad actually. And I think Lukaku is a big statement signing. I think we all know Lukaku's got a big chip on his shoulder. He's going to want a lot to prove, because I think the first time he got loaned out to West Brom was after he missed a penalty in the sort of Super Cup against Bayern Munich. So I think it sort of all fell apart from him when he missed that. And then obviously he started his loan spells, built himself back up, got some big transfers. So I think he's got a real chip on his shoulder about wanting to prove himself. I think if you look at what Chelsea achieved last season without out-and-out goal scorers, although they had, on paper, out-and-out young, promising goal scorers, but it didn't sort of quite click for them. You bring in a striker in Lukaku who has got a really good proven Premier League goal scoring record and wants to prove himself, because clearly he doesn't need to come back if he didn't want to, regardless of the money. I know obviously Inter need that money, but he doesn't have to come back. So I think bringing in a big striker like that will pay dividends for them this year. And I think if he can get a 20-goal season or something, I think that will make the world of difference for them. So I think that's what they were missing last year, and I think that's a really, really smart signing. And I mean, we've seen how brilliant and how rigid defensively Chelsea can be as well. And I think was Tuchel the first manager to beat Guardiola back to back like 3 times in a row or something at the tail end of last season,
Something like that.
Something like that, some outrageous stat. So, even when they aren't firing all cylinders, they still find a way to win. So I think they're real title challengers this year, especially if this Lukaku thing does come off.
No, very good points. What about you, Bill?
Man United for me for runners-up. They finished runners-up last season, and I think they'll finish runners-up again. I think they'll challenge along with the other teams for the title this season. They have to under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he's built a side now that's capable of going all the way. Obviously needs a stronger start than last season. Hence why we did that video about him and Pochettino, etc. But as you boys mentioned, Jadon Sancho's big signing. I think they were missing a winger to play on the right hand side, and they've got one of the best in Europe. He's proved that obviously with Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, and he's shown flashes for England as well. The imminent signing of Raphael Varane, if they manage to get him over the line, I think that's a great signing for them. He's proven over the last few years with Real Madrid what an outstanding player he is, and for the France national team as well. So if that, and he's got that turn of pace which likes of Lindelof and Harry Maguire don't have for Man United. So if you have Varane and Maguire as centre backs, that's a very good partnership. I think the only thing for United is the goalkeeping situation. Dean Henderson was mixed when he took over the number 1 shirt, and David De Gea hasn't been the same keeper for the past few seasons. So I think United will close for the first time in a while, I think.
Nice. Well, boys, we've done it. We're at number 1. I don't think it's probably going to come as a surprise who we're all going to probably pick. So it'll be a short one. I've gone for Man City, as you'd expect. They're the last ones left. I think they've been outstanding the last couple of years, making lots of really good progress in the right direction, especially their progress in Europe as well, Champions League final, etc. I think that's obviously a big goal for their owners, and they finally got right to the precipice of achieving that. So I think they're in the right, going in the right directions. I just think they're the standout favourites, aren't they, really, boys? So Bill, over to you, my friend. Number one.
Yeah, obviously Man City. They're the teams to beat. Obviously, when you're strong, when you're champions, you need to keep buying players. They've signed Jack Grealish, obviously, and obviously know the quality he's shown for Aston Villa, but outstanding. 1 to 11, they've got a ridiculous squad depth as well. Obviously, brilliant manager Pep Guardiola. So, I think there'll be a title challenge between the few sides, hopefully. But I think Man City are by far the team to beat.
Nice. And Ryan, to wrap it all up, my friend.
Have I got time to change it to make Wolves champions?
Yeah, go on, go for it. Surprise pick.
Yeah, Man City, just very strong, aren't they? I think I think it'd be a shock if they lose it this season. Don't get me wrong, the top four, I think any one of those teams can definitely give them a good shot and have a chance of winning the title. But I think Grealish is a fantastic addition. If they do get Harry Kane, I know by the time this goes out, it's probably going to be concrete that he stays at Spurs. But I just think they're certainly going in the right direction. And I think, Guardiola's definitely built a solid army now where they know where they're going. And I think they've got it this year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Grealish, because I know he was saying as well, wasn't he, with Villa, he's always sort of double marked, so it means it's hard. But when you've got Kevin De Bruyne and all these other fantastic players that can free up things, it'll be interesting to see how he does in a big squad, and he's got a lot more freedom to play and things like that. It'd be quite exciting for him.
Yeah, it won't be the main man, so we'll see how we adapt. So thanks, lads, for joining. I can see the painstaking effort that you guys have gone through. So we'll see what happens with our predictions for the season upcoming. So thanks everyone for watching. Subscribe to Gage Football if you're new, like us on the socials, and let us know your Premier League predictions in the comments below. It'd be brilliant to read those. Thanks for watching. See you next time. All the best.